Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Flash flood watch remains in effect for parts of Jamaica. IC report may sway next election. Pollster Don Anderson weighs in on the issue. And later in sports, Montego Bay United to host Harborview Monday night game. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. A flash flood watch remains in effect for southern and northwestern parishes until 5 p.m. today. The Met Service says the area of concern include Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. James and Trelawney. Strong gusty winds are also expected across south parishes and offshore marine areas. Fishers and other marine interests should exercise caution as sea conditions will deteriorate due to thunderstorms and strong gusty winds. In the meantime, classes were disrupted for several schools in St. Thomas due to impassable roadways. Scores of students were sent home after braving the weather.
Look on the car. Who can cross it? The children cannot cross it.
Morant Bay High held classes online. Heavy overnight rain resulted in flooding in several areas across the parish. Pollster Don Anderson says the recent Integrity Commission report on Prime Minister Andrew Holness's statutory declarations could influence the outcome of the next general elections. He was speaking on Power 106's Morning Agenda this morning.
Much has been said since the tabling of the Integrity Commission report last week. Pollster Don Anderson notes that the details may not change the minds of Jamaica Labour Party supporters, but more People's National Party supporters may be driven to vote in the next election.
You may find that die-hard supporters of the Jamaica Labour Party, it might mean much to them in terms of a shift, okay? What might very well happen though, because the optics are very important, is that you may very well find supporters of the People's National Party who were undecided about what they were doing and who were sitting on the fence or kind of apathetic. They may very well come out in greater numbers.
He's of the view that the outcome of the IC report will have an impact on the Prime Minister's future.
Because so far all that has been said are largely allegations and claims about what has taken place. If it gets to the next step and clearly, the Prime Minister's name is cleared without a shadow of a doubt, then again it might, have another effect of pulling back. But a lot depends, therefore, on, I think, the next steps and how far the next steps are allowed to go, because we know that there are attempts to not have it aired much more, as you mentioned, the legal challenges which are being presented right now.
Mr. Anderson further notes that the controversy surrounding the report, among other issues being played out in the public domain in recent weeks, are already showing that Jamaicans are election ready. He says these could lead to a higher voter turnout in the next general election.
More and more people are now accepting that elections are likely to take place before September next year. Of course, it doesn't have to, but they are kind of in a state of readiness. And I think right now what is taking place is not going to depress, but actually increase the degree of interest that there is in voting next time. And we hope we're actually in the field this week. And one of the things that we will be looking at is the likely voter turnout. I anticipate that there will be a higher intention, whether this pans out in the reality is another thing, but that there is a greater interest now in voting than there was in the February election and in the last general election.
Nakinski Robinson, TVJ News.
The St. Catherine Municipal Corporation launches an aggressive garbage cleanup. The corporation says business operators will also be prosecuted for not properly disposing their waste. Krista Campbell reports.
At least 3 holding areas for garbage. That's what Spanish Town Mayor Norman Scott thinks it will take to start the process of cleaning up the old Capitol in St. Catherine. He says one of the holding areas will be located in the town center across from a credit union.
We're looking at Prince Avenue, where we want to put one, and the other one, we want to put it in the JUTC bus park, close to where the sanitary convenience is. Personnel who are responsible for beautification will remove the garbage and take it to these holding areas, and the NSWMA trucks will then remove it from there.
He adds that a partnership with the National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, will also help with an enforcement drive that will target operators of commercial businesses to ensure they have contracts for garbage collection. But Councillor Claude Hamilton had concerns about private individuals.
Once person see these dump sites or dump areas, it might be abused, and people, once they're not getting access to dump things inside the holding areas, will dump it outside on the street and probably cause. Some just want to know, one, is those areas identified? Two, or what will be the proper arrangement made and sanctions, if any? Because you would want to know, possibly we would have cameras there or nearby to see if persons violate.
We have these beautification people that we employ.
Yes. In hindsight, Mr. Chairman, we may have to employ like 3 of them permanent to the site.
While commending the initiative to finally ensure a cleaner Spanish Town, disaster coordinator for St. Catherine, Dr. Kurt Wall, stressed that continuity is the only way to break what he deemed a culture of littering in Jamaica.
I think that a significant amount of the waste that comes into Spanish Town is from people who's arbitrary walking on the road, them drink them box juice or them soda and they just throw it on the ground. And that is why you realize that after 2 minutes of the streets being clean, they were dirty again.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
As world leaders gather for the UN General Assembly to tackle global issues, another crucial conversation is taking place. A technological company is highlighting artificial intelligence as a potential lifeline for young people with mental health issues. Ramarda Lyons reports.
Therapist. Talking. All of this in a physical setting. But in a world where mental health struggles often go unseen, one company is leveraging artificial intelligence for that purpose. An emotional confidant? Not one on foot, of course, but one on data and batteries. Max Weideman is Chief Technological Officer of Million Ways.
To really help children in Jamaica, especially after the impacts of COVID, we have to get them to really connect on a personal level with people again. The pandemic created a lot of distance.
But many would argue that more time with technology does the total opposite. Mr. Weideman has a response.
What we have is a solution where you can really find out your true passions, who you really are, and connect with people based on that, based on your true self, based on your true passion. And we also deliver a mental health platform for people where they can openly talk about their struggles.
During a presentation to the United Nations today, Prime Minister Andrew Holness welcomed a focus on the importance of science, innovation, and technological advancement. But there's a concern.
Admittedly, new technologies such as artificial intelligence and robotics create new challenges to security and some livelihoods.
There's a flip side.
They also create important opportunities, especially for young people, and hold great potential to empower generations to transform economies and to solve complex challenges.
Mr. Weideman says he's mindful of the concerns about AI.
Especially because right now AI is very broad, but what we have developed is really focused on getting to know people on a scientific level, on a psychological level, and using AI for good to really help people understand themselves better.
The United Emirates and the United Nations Development Programme have joined forces at the General Assembly, focusing on AI for sustainable development. Ramarda Lyons, TVJ News.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The Manchester police are vowing to restore normalcy to Knockpatrick. This comes following a recent flare-up of violence, Karen Simpson reports.
The usually quiet community of Knockpatrick in Manchester has been rocked by violence in recent weeks. Since the start of the year, at least 38 people have been killed, with September accounting for 5. For the Manchester police, that's 5 too many people.
Nobody can be comfortable with 38 murders. 38 murders, and we are not at war. Right, Mr. C? We're not at war. I never ever dreamt I would have seen Manchester with this murder thing.
During a walkthrough of the community recently by several stakeholders, residents were reassured that their community will be restored to its once peaceful nature. Sub-officer in charge of the Mandeville Police, Inspector Simon McCormack, however, highlighted that this is possible with the support of the community.
I'm sure, as God as my witness, somebody in this crowd has something that they can tell the police that assists with what is happening. Everybody is not dumb and dumber. The problem can be solved right here, but we don't need nobody to approach me here from which side of the ears. So I'm going to show my number, tell you. So when we leave here, we expect the phone to ring. Because problem ourselves, you know.
And in response to when will the police resume issuing permits for events as their livelihood is being affected, Inspector McCormack said promoters will have to exercise patience.
People come to my office every day wanting to know when they're going to lift it. We can't just tell them that come December, come January, you need to hear what is happening. When people can be put behind bars, investigations carry us to a point where we say we are comfortable. Then we certainly can do this, but at this juncture, it's unfair for people to ask about permits. What are we permitting? A gathering. What gathering causes? And that's where we are trying to lessen the impact.
In the meantime, he says the Manchester Police is enforcing a crime reduction strategy to take back the parish. Kerry Simpson, TVJ News.
The government is contemplating a review of several laws to facilitate flexi work. The move could see thousands of Jamaicans not only working remotely, but also earning more from multiple jobs.
Multiple jobs, more money, and not just Jamaican dollars, but less time, if any at all, in a physical workspace. Labour Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says that's now the way of the world, and legislative reform to make it work locally is necessary. He reasons that from a government perspective,
we have to be the ones now to look towards the legislative reform and the policies that will allow for you to truly have flexi work arrangements, to be able to have remote work.
Flexible work arrangements are characterized by variations in work schedule. Instead of working the traditional Monday to Friday for 8 hours a day, the worker could negotiate with the employer as it relates to the start and end time of the workday, the number of hours and days worked, and the days of the week on which he or she works.
This is now. We have Jamaicans right now, right here in Jamaica, making millions of dollars off of TikTok. Did you know that? Huh? We have many, many youngsters who are in school, in university, and while they're in their math class, they are online doing remote work for someone in Kansas. This is just the reality.
Now, this type of work arrangement already exists in several sectors locally, such as the night and shift work in health, transportation, security, and communications. But there's a place for more wide-scale pickup.
The government is examining, we're moving, we're advancing, we're evolving, and we are staying agile in terms of our own thoughts and how we see the legislative framework and the significant reform that will be necessary for us to ensure that we meet the needs of this modern workforce.
He says there will be a review of several legislations, including the Labour Officers Powers Act, the Minimum Wage Act, and the Employment Agencies Act. These reviews are not only to make flexi work more possible, but also
to ensure that we protect the workers' rights wherever they are, whatever environment they are in, and that we create a fair, equitable labor market for all.
Romarda Lyons, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Jamaicans paid more for apparel for the year ended August. Statin says the group clothing and footwear was up an average 3.4% for the period. For the month of August alone, there was a 0.4% increase. Statin says the main contributor to this increase was a 0.5% rise in the cost of clothes compared to July. That was influenced by higher prices for clothing materials and school uniforms. The average cost increase for footwear was 0.2% due mainly to increased prices for children's shoes. Further afield, House Speaker Mike Johnson has released plans to avert a government shutdown. Johnson's plan, known as a limited continuing resolution, would fund the government until December 20 and include $230 million for Secret Service funding. In a Sunday letter to his members, he said next week the House will pass the initiative and pass a clean 3-month CR to prevent the Senate from jamming U.S. with a bill loaded with billions in new spending and unrelated provisions. Government funding is slated to run out at the end of the month, and Johnson said he does not want to shut down weeks before the election. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Carrie-Ann Simpson.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Guyana is announcing its digital infrastructure by implementing blockchain technology in government agencies to prevent record tampering, especially in the Lands and Surveys and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission. Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo emphasized the need for this to ensure the processes are fair. The Information and Communication Master Plan 2030 aims to move all Ministry of Home Affairs services online. An electronic identification card system is also being developed. On the international scene, an Israeli airstrike in southern Beirut killed at least 31 people, including Hezbollah commander Ibrahim Akil. The attack targeted Hezbollah's stronghold and was one of the deadliest strikes since October 7, 2023. Akil, who had a $7 million bounty for past attacks on U.S. interests, was confirmed dead by Hezbollah. This strike follows a week of escalating violence, including previous explosions targeting Hezbollah communication devices, raising tensions further in the region. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nakinski Robinson.
Thank you, Nakinski. We take another break. Sports is next.